Welcome, everybody, to Survive in Advance on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. Survive in Advance is brought to you by MyBookie.ag. To get up to a $1,000 cash bonus, go to the MyBookie.ag banner at the top of the GruelingTruth.net page. Click it, and if you put in $2,000, you'll have $3,000 by the time you're done. Grand. But, yeah. So, right now, I'm Mike Goodpaster, and I want to welcome in my co-host, who calls a motorcycle a motorsicle. Help me welcome to the show, Steve Risley.
Hey, guys. How you doing? You know what? I'm just glad today we're talking football. We get one day off of basketball. We know it's Final Four week. It's March Madness, but I am so grateful that we have Anthony with us today, and we get to talk football for a day and kind of get off the basketball bandwagon for one day. So I hope everybody enjoys today's show.
All right, guys. So let me welcome, even though he's already been introduced partially by Steve, who always does that to me, from the FFaceoff, Anthony Cervino. How you doing, Anthony?
I'm doing great, guys.
All right, so right away I'm going to bust your balls about a Dallas Cowboy move, which was to give Randy Gregory a contract through the 2020 season. Anthony, you like the move?
At first, it does seem like a head-scratching move, but I think what they are doing here, number one, if Gregory is allowed to play again, they're probably not paying him what his actual value is, because he really is a really good pass rusher, and with the rate that pass rushers are going for, they're kind of just keeping him under their thumb. So when he does come back, he's still a Dallas Cowboy. There's no guarantee he's going to be there in week one. That's a long shot. But what if Gregory's suspended for the season and then can come back for the playoffs?
So my question is this, though, Anthony.
Run, it's a smart move.
In the long run, I think it's a stupid move because you don't win with guys like that. The Kansas City Chiefs have proven that. They could have the most talent in the world, but there's so much cancer on that team with Tyreek Hill and guys like that, and they just add them all the time. Isn't there something to be said to have a little bit of character on your team?
Well, the Cowboys have added character. Whether it's Jason Witten, the Randall Cobb, the other veterans they signed, they have those pieces in place.
So why do you want to add somebody that you don't know if you can depend on?
Because of the upside.
There's no upside. If you can't depend on a guy, the Cincinnati Bengals, 1986-87, Stanley Wilson got suspended constantly. He was probably a better running back than Ickey Woods and James Brooks. He truly was. And they kept giving him chances because of the upside. And the problem was the upside ended up being really down when the night before the Super Bowl he does something to hurt his team and possibly cost them the Super Bowl. Barrett Robbins was another guy who was constantly in trouble. His were mainly mental issues, but also drugs. Day before the Super Bowl, that upside crashes down. Yeah, so, I mean, I just, as a coach, I don't think I want guys like this. Because if you can't depend on somebody, to me, Steve, my question is this. If you're coaching a team, do you want a dependable guy that is a good player, or do you want a guy that you never know about that could possibly be a great player?
Let me address this first off. And again, we said this before on the show. I coached Randy Gregory in basketball.
Right. You coached him when he was a teenager, and he may have been a good kid.
Right. And
from since, we got nothing to say. Well, we don't know that. All we can do is judge him off what he's done. That.
All I know is he concussed my son, who was the scout team quarterback as a sophomore.
Is that why you liked him?
My son's ever been concussed.
Were you mad at your son that day?
Yeah. If you ever saw the hit was pretty impressive. My son was about 6 foot off the ground, level, and falling.
But, I mean, really, you could be a great kid when you're 16, but then when everybody tells you you're great and lets you do whatever you want for the next decade,
exactly,
that can change.
Exactly. And therein lies the problem. I know I want a reliable kid. I want a reliable person on my team to know that I can count on all the time over somebody who's going to be a great player, who's going to be in and out, flippant, injured all the time, things like that. I would rather have somebody who gives me a solid, honest effort every single game, and he's not going to get himself hurt. He's going to play hard and get after it. So I don't think it's a good move to keep sinking money into Randy Gregory right now. I mean, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
Well, Anthony, my other question is this.
Gotten with him.
Greg Hardy had a huge upside, too. That didn't turn out very well.
A little bit different situation. Gregory is dealing with, issues with weed? And Greg Hardy was, boxing his ex-girlfriends.
But my problem with that is this. The weed thing, I think, should be legal because it's better than the guys taking opiates. But
I agree.
When I'm paying somebody that much money, I don't care if I tell them they got to cut their hair or have an ear or get rid of their earrings. If they're not willing to do that for the team, I think that's a serious issue. If you can't give up something, and I know weed's not addictive supposedly, but I think anything's addictive if you like doing it enough. And if he can't give that up to be able to play football, I think the question then comes to how badly he really wants to play football.
I mean, I can see both sides of it, but in terms of a football move, he's only scheduled to make $955,000 next year. He was a former second-round pick in 2015. So there's a lot of talent there that they're getting for peanuts.
Yeah, I don't care if he's free,
why not
though.
keep him under your radar?
Because
or he goes to New England. Or he goes to New England.
Let him go to New England. But the thing is this. I mean, who cares if he goes to New England? New England got Josh Gordon, who has the same issues, and they got a few games out of him, and that was it. But
New England is still retaining him.
Yeah, and they'll still retain him. And if he works out, he works out. I still think he's a bad idea, even if he works out. Because to me, almost none of these guys ever work out, Anthony. I mean, for 10 guys that are given the same chance, how many of them really turn it around? Maybe 2 out of 10, 3 out of 10. And I think that it is a privilege to get a chance to play in the NFL. And if you piss that privilege away and you don't take it seriously enough, maybe you don't deserve to be there.
I think what the Cowboys should do is trading to the Rams because pot's legal in California.
But it's not legal in the NFL either way.
In the NFL, I know.
It's just like it's legal to drink, but you'll get suspended for getting a DUI.
Yeah, but you can smoke. My son goes to the pot shop all the time, and he has a ball with it. It's his own deal. It's legal here. We have drugstores and we have pot stores right next to each other now in Los Angeles, all over the place. And, my son doesn't drink. He just goes out and has a bong and goes after it. Whatever.
But the thing is this.
Whatever floats his boat.
Could your son not do that if he was told it would cost him his job if he continued to do it?
No, he has stopped doing it, actually. It's funny. He hasn't done it in the last 2 months. He's quit entirely. He's cleaning his act up.
Yeah, because in the end, people may say it's not dangerous, but it does make you stupid when you're on it. I mean, it just does, because the thing is this. I walk around, and when I walk through a Walmart in Indiana, because there's one every 5 miles in Indiana, you can usually smell weed. And usually the people that wear weed or that smell like weed do not look like they are holding down really good jobs.
Yeah. Well.
But in the end, my thing is this. I can tell you this, Anthony. If it was legal, I wouldn't care. He could play. Since it's not, and he can't stop, I want people to put the team above themselves. Because as a coach,
Mike,
I'm putting the team above myself.
Mike, I concur with you on this one. Anthony, I'm sorry. I can't believe they re-signed him to a new contract.
Well, I think this. I think if they would have waited, if they'd have waited a year and he had no more issues and he didn't get, he's already signed through this year. And it may have cost you more money to do it that way, but you also know if he's completely clean for a year and he does play in the playoffs for you, if God forbid the Cowboys get there, and he plays well, you may have to pay him a little bit more money, but you have taught him a lesson. The only thing you did here is, I know he's got to stay straight to get that, but the fact that you're giving him more money possibly, I would rather see him get himself clean because he needs to be able. He wants to play football, not because he's going to make a lot of money the next year. And once again, I don't care who smokes weed. I don't care. I'd rather have my kids smoke weed than drink beer because in the end, there's a lot more fatalities through drinking the beer. and I think it should be legal. But like I said, I used to, up until about the early 2000s, if you played on my football team, you couldn't have earrings. I wouldn't allow it. And kids, what's the difference? Well, if you're not willing to give that up, then there's more things that's more important to you than playing on this team, so you can leave. And whether people like it or not, it's just how it was.
I always told my son, you can get your ear pierced and you can get a tattoo, but know in the bottom of my sink, under my kitchen, I have a Brillo pad and a pair of needle-nose pliers.
Now, do you realize a Brillo pad will do nothing to a tattoo? Right?
It's a metaphor, Mike. Of course, it's a metaphor. Yeah.
I didn't know if it was a metaphor or you were just telling us your son was not very bright.
No. My son has no tattoos, no pierced ears.
Well, see, I don't care so much about the tattoos, even though I think they look stupid. But I'm sorry, and this may be sexist, but I think earrings are for girls. So. Just my opinion. If you want to wear one, I don't care. But
Anthony,
my opinion.
yes. Okay, let's get off of Randy Gregory. Jason Witten, what the hell? This guy's like retired. He's old. Is he going to be an impact player for the Cowboys? Really?
From what I'm seeing there, he's going to likely be on a snap count. Maybe
he's going to impact the team in the locker room, I think, more than anything else.
But what he also does is, Jason Witten retired. The year he retired, his yards per catch was in the tank, but he still caught 60 balls. What Jason Witten is going to do is give Dak Prescott, a reliable pass catcher.
A safety blanket.
Who knows where the first down marker is, can catch the ball and fall. That's what Jason Witten's role is.
Yeah.
And look what Rob Gronkowski's role in the Patriots was. He wasn't the same player as a route runner, but he became one of the best run blockers in the league. And Jason Witten, even at his age, can still probably block with the best of them.
So my question is this. When you look at it, do you think maybe Witten's in the booth, and I didn't think he was that good at it anyways, but I don't think anybody's that great up there. Except for a couple people. But when you look at this, he gave up a lot of money to do that. Do you think this is something where he's in the booth and he thinks, man, I want to be a coach someday? And maybe he still feels like playing. He calls Jerry Jones, and maybe Jerry tells him, well, you come play for a year, help us out in the locker room, and then we'll transition you to being the tight end coach.
Yeah, I can certainly see that happening because we see that a lot in the NFL now, but especially in Dallas. Jerry Jones, he gets these, relationships or attachments with his players, and they basically are, look what his relationship was Tony Romo, Jason Garrett.
Yeah.
Datton Wynn, who was a linebacker 15, 20 years ago, he became a coach for the Cowboys. So there's a lot of opportunity for Jason Witten to transition into coaching. And this is a win-win for both sides.
Is that a good way to do things? Because I don't think it is. Because if you get attached to these guys and give them jobs because of that, then maybe you're not hiring the best coaches.
I don't think he's going to put Jason Witten as a head coach.
Why not? He put Jason Garrett there.
Garrett worked his way up. Garrett worked his way up.
Oh, hell. He didn't work his way up. He was going to be the head coach. Jason Witten would do a better job right now.
Oh, you just don't like Jason Garrett.
No, because he sucks, and so does Jerry Jones, because you have a team that should
Anthony.
Jason Garrett has only had one losing season as a head coach in Dallas.
How many playoff games has he won?
That's when Tony
how many playoff games the Cowboys won?
Seriously?
One or two? I think the Colts have won more playoff games than the Cowboys.
What's he won? 2 in a decade?
2 or 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's won 2 more than Marvin Lewis in a decade.
So
all Anthony, I can tell you is this. I would want him gone if he was coaching my team, just like I wanted Marvin Lewis gone, because you got to win playoff games. The other shit doesn't matter.
Is Jason Witten a compensation for Gregory? It's kind of like, we're going to bring the clean cut, good kid back in, the former hero. And
you mean
Jones
Jason
saying,
Witten?
I got Jason Witten, yeah, Witten, I'm sorry. Is Witten a compensation for Randy Gregory?
I mean, they have players like Witt, and they have Sean Lee, who's a big locker room guy, and I don't think you can have enough of them, whether it's Witt and Randall Cobb. When he signed with Dallas, his former Green Bay teammates said, Dallas is not only getting a good player, but he's going to be really good in the meeting room. So the Cowboys are bringing in these quality veterans for that reason alone to help out guys like Randy Gregory.
All right, let's look at the New York Giants real quick. And Eli Manning, and now they're saying they could possibly re-sign him through 2020. Good move, bad move, or do you think it is a smokescreen for maybe picking a quarterback like Daniel Jones later in the first round, Anthony?
I think it's crazy.
Why?
Especially living here on the East Coast in New Jersey, right under New York, right under New York media, and watching Eli Manning in the past 5 or 6 years, it hasn't been good. And the New York Giants, they're making moves that suggest rebuild, but they keep retaining Eli Manning. What I think they're going to do is end up, or what I think they should do is go get their quarterback, let him sit behind Eli and make Eli have his last run. And possibly when the Giants are mathematically eliminated, then see what the rookie has.
Okay,
but I can't see them keeping Eli into 2020.
But there's no quarterback here you can draft. I don't think there's anybody here that they can get that is going to be a franchise quarterback. I don't think there's a franchise quarterback in this draft. I think Kyler Murray, you got a bunch of guys in the right situation that might be all right. But if you drafted Dwayne Haskins, you're going to set your franchise back 5 years. I don't think – what have they done to make it look like they're trying to rebuild by trading Odell Beckham?
Well, they've traded quite a few players, whether it's Olivier Vernon, Odell Beckham, Landon Collins. They had let him walk to get a third-round compensatory pick back.
But they have also – didn't they just sign an offensive guard that's pretty good?
Well, they brought in Zeitler in the Olivier Vernon deal. And they also signed Golden Tate. So I'm very confused on what this team is doing.
I think what they're doing is this. I think Odell Beckham is not the answer here. And I think when you give up, Olivier Vernon for Kevin Zeitler, you're getting a top-quality offensive lineman. Last year, they upgraded their offensive line where it was actually decent by the end of the season. And with the extra draft picks, you could get more offensive linemen. You could strengthen the defense. I don't think they're packing it in. I think they're a team that, with the right draft, could be a contender. I don't think Eli Manning has been that bad.
In what? In the AAF?
No. In the division that has nothing outside of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Oh, okay.
Well, I mean, you can sit there and you can talk about the Dallas Cowboys all you want, but they got no coach.
But that defense was atrocious last year.
Yeah. And that defense...
What's your answer to that defense?
Well, the Dallas Cowboys offense, which I don't think is that great. The Philadelphia Eagles have to be the favorite because they've got Doug Peterson. But you got to remember this. They added Nate Solder, Will Hernandez, who didn't play. I mean, the offensive line is going to be good enough. You got Saquon Barkley. You got Sterling Shepard. You got a much better offensive line. And, the defense can be improved through the draft. And a lot of the defense's problem is you're on the damn field all the time when your offense sucks. I don't get why people think Eli Manning is done. I mean, when I watch him play, he has no time to throw it. And yes, his clock is sped up, so even when he gets time to throw it, sometimes it's off timing. But with Kevin Zeitler, Nate Solder, Will Hernandez, who I think is going to be a really good offensive lineman, I don't think this is that big of a stretch. And they're better off with Eli Manning. They got a better chance there than they do with Dwayne Haskins. I mean, do you think there's a quarterback that fits their system that could work? The only guy I see that fits their system possibly would be Daniel Jones or Will Grier. And I think both of those guys are kind of crapshoots. But I actually think those two guys have the biggest upside 3 years from now.
Well, the Giants have also been rumored in the Josh Rosen sweepstakes. They're also they spent some extra time with Drew Lock on his pro day, and Lock would probably be the pick at 17, if they went pass rusher at 6.
Well, I think it would be Daniel Jones if they're smart, because I don't think Locke's ever going to be a very good quarterback. Just my opinion. But when I look at this,
also
go ahead.
Try to go for a quarterback next year.
Well, that would be the smart thing to do. But
if a team's trying to come up to get one of these quarterbacks, and they'll say, and let's say it's a bad team, a team that could be a top 5 pick again next year, wants to give them their first round pick for next year in a package, why not?
Yeah. So that's kind of my point here. I don't think they have to jump the gun. I don't think they're in a total rebuild mode. I think if they can add the right pieces, I don't think the quarterback's out there. The Giants, on their defense, I mean, they've added Jabril Peppers, who I think is a solid player, Bethea, Marcus Golden, and Olsen Pierre. So when you look at them, the Giants got a lot out of that trade with Beckham, and I think that with Beckham, I think he was a cancer in that locker room. I don't know if he'll be in Cleveland, because sometimes a fresh start can change things. They re-signed their own free agents, Penny, Tanny, Latimer. I mean, they had like 7 or 8 guys they re-signed. They got rid, of course, of Landon Collins, B.W. Webb, who went to the Bengals, and Jamon Brown. But outside of Collins, I mean, Webb's a solid player. Brown's all right. But I still think defensively they strengthened their secondary with Peppers and Bethea. They now have 2 pretty good safeties. You've got extra draft picks to draft, a lineman here, offensive lineman here, and, a defensive player here. I think with a proper draft, they'll be all right. And I still think that if you put an offensive line in front of Eli Manning, he's still better than Dak Prescott, and I like Dak Prescott.
I think you're reaching there.
Really? Because you know what? I've never said Eli Manning can't throw somebody open. And when you look, I mean, Eli Manning's stats for being behind a bad offensive line is not that bad, are they?
Last year, I mean, he did play well later in the year, and
because the offensive line got better.
Eric Flowers was the issue, and they inserted Chad Wheeler at right tackle. That was a big move for them last year.
That's my point. And when he had an offensive line in front of him, he looked pretty decent.
Is it enough? But is it enough? That's a strong.
Well, I don't think this is.
Say what you want about the Dallas Cowboys.
I don't think the Cowboys are
and
overly
the Eagles are
strong.
A pretty strong team.
I don't think either team.
The Redskins are going to be better. Getting Darius Geis back healthy.
The Redskins are not going to be better. The Redskins
at least average.
The Redskins are the Redskins. Jay Gruden is their coach. As long as Jay Gruden is their coach, they're not a threat to anything except themselves. I mean, they're just not. And Daniel Snyder owns the team.
I'm not saying they're going to be a 10-win team, but they're going to be better.
But I think Eli, when we sit here and write him off,
when you didn't have a quarterback. Alex Smith, once he went down, it was all downhill for the Redskins.
Okay. I don't think they were going to the playoffs with Alex Smith. And if we look at Eli Manning's stats last year, if I said my quarterback completed 66% of his passes for 4,300 yards, 21 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions, would you think that was a guy that was over the hill?
No, absolutely not.
And if you look at him before that, I mean, he's thrown, you said the last 5 years. Over the last 5 years, 4 of those 5 years, he's thrown for over 4,000 yards. His touchdown to interceptions 5 years ago, 30 to 14, 35 to 14, 26 to 16, 19, 13, 21, 11. He has been sacked in those 5 years 40, 30, around 150 times. I don't think that's bad.
Football games.
Huh?
He's not winning.
They were in the playoffs 2 years ago, and 2 years ago he was 26 and 16, 4,100 yards. Stats were worse than what they were last year, but the team's defense was much better. Once again, if he has time to throw, he's still good. And I think that there's probably half the teams in the NFL that would jump on having a quarterback that was 21-11, 4,300 yards, and completed 66% of his passes, but behind an offensive line that in the first half of the season, I mean, last year he was sacked almost 50 times, Anthony, and he still completed 4,300 yards, 66%, and had a 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. The problem is not Eli Manning. The problem is this. People just hate Eli Manning because he's a Giants quarterback. When you look at Eli Manning's numbers, Eli Manning is a Hall of Fame quarterback that's won 2 Super Bowls. And if you want to compare him to Dak Prescott, that's fine, but I'll make this statement. If you had Eli Manning the last 5 years, you'd have probably won a Super Bowl, especially 3 years ago when you lost to the Packers and you had a great offensive line.
I don't know. I don't see it. I get what you're saying about the stats, but he also threw the ball 8th most attempts in the league. He wasn't very efficient on the offensive line. Then, yeah, he was pressured. He had the number 27 ranked protection rate. He was very good under pressure. The 10th ranked quarterback in pressured completions. But when you talk about his overall efficiency, air yards per attempt, he was in the back 10. True completion percentage, back 10. Adjusted yards per attempt, 18th. That's not going to get it done. Play action completion percentage, when you have a running back like Saquon Barkley,
will not be very good. You can't run play action. No, wait a second.
Red zone completion
you can't run play action. You can't run play action with a bad offensive line.
Less than half of his passes in the red zone.
Anthony, number one, where your offensive line is most important throwing the ball is in play action passing. Because if you're trying to play action, it takes a little bit longer to throw the ball. If you're doing that behind a bad offensive line, I'm not going to worry about play action, even if Saquon Barkley's there, when your offensive line is so bad that I can beat you one-on-one, not have to blitz you, not have to do anything but go get you. In red zone offensive completion, same thing. If your offensive line's bad on the red zone, you're usually going to get 5 across, or you're going to get man. If you get man, you're going to get blitzed. If you get 5 across, your offensive line gets blown up by the defensive line. There's not a whole hell of a lot you can do. I'm just telling you this. If the offensive line is decent this year and the defense is decent, the Giants will win at least 7 or 8 games, maybe more. And Eli Manning will have a good year. Because this is the other thing I do know. I know that stats, generally, any stats, are for losers. I just bring the stats up because that's what fans want to talk about. When I watch him throw the ball, this is a man that completed 66% of his passes. You compare that, 2006 or 2007 when he won the Super Bowl, it was 56%. He's a guy who's gotten better, who's completed more passes behind a bad offensive line and not being able to throw play action because he doesn't have time. What were his play action attempts?
In the past 10 years, the Giants were just a terrible football team around him? Because in the past 10 years, he's had 2 double-digit win seasons.
Yeah. How many Super Bowls has he won?
Nothing in the past 10 years, right?
Why are you asking me? The last 10 years. What years did he win the Super Bowl?
2007, right?
Yeah.
And what?
Years.
What was the other one?
Was it 2011?
Maybe. I got to look. I
have
to
look
that up.
11 or 12, something like that.
Regardless, with the Super Bowl mixed in the past 10 years, he's had 2 double-digit win seasons.
Yeah. And I can tell you this, if you could tell me right now, I can draft a quarterback in the first round this year and over the next 12 years.
And the past
he's only going to make
years,
the playoffs twice.
Andy Dalton made the playoffs in 4 of the past 8 years, and half of his seasons in the league he's made the playoffs.
He's made it in 5, but he has not won. You know what? If you're telling me this, I can have Andy Dalton take me to the playoffs his first 5 years and go to the playoffs 5 out of 8 times, or I could have had Andy Dalton play here for 17 years and win 1 Super Bowl. I'd rather have the Andy Dalton that wins the Super Bowl because I don't give a damn about the playoffs, because the playoffs are irrelevant. The playoffs are only relevant when your franchise sucks. I know this because most Bengal fans think that's a big deal. I don't. I've seen my team lose Super Bowls. I don't need to see that again. I've seen my team lose playoff games. I don't care. I just soon go 2-14 as go 12-4 and lose in the playoffs or lose in the Super Bowl. I don't care. The only thing that matters at the end of the day, and I know Risley will back me up on this because he's got one of these things, is the rings on your fingers. If you don't have rings on your fingers, you're a failure. I would take Eli Manning's career as a quarterback over Dan Marino in a freaking New York minute. And I think that's pretty quick.
I concur.
The only thing that matters is the rings on your fingers. And in Super Bowl 46, when they won the Super Bowl, he threw a pass down the left sideline that was the most perfect pass I've ever seen thrown that won that Super Bowl. He had a lot to do with that. And in Super Bowl 42, well, he got lucky and David Tyree caught it with his head. 90% of quarterbacks in the NFL would have been sacked on that play. But Super Bowl 46, he played his ass off, and he led his team to winning the Super Bowl, and they didn't have the dominant defense that year. And he went to San Francisco, and he won in San Francisco. In overtime, he beat the 49ers. That's all I need to know about this guy. That tells me this, yes, if his team's 6-10, it's because his team sucks. Eli Manning is not Tom Brady. He's not automatically making your team the best team in the world, but he is a big-time quarterback. And if you get him in the playoffs, you got a shot. And in the end, if I draft a quarterback with the first pick in the NFL draft and he never wins a Super Bowl, but he takes me to the playoffs every year, he's a bust. Because you're drafted that high to win Super Bowls. You play the game to win Super Bowls. Not to tell people I went to the playoffs 5 straight years. Because then their next question is, well, how many games did you win in the playoffs? And then when you tell them nothing, they laugh at you like they do Andy Dalton, and they act like you suck.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I'm sure we made all the New York fans happy now because we spent the whole time.
Oh, and the thing is this: I can't stand. I can't stand Eli Manning. I thought he would suck when he came in, but I got to give the man his due. I mean, if you give Eli Manning or Peyton Manning to win a Super Bowl game, I'm not giving him his due.
I'm not knocking Eli Manning.
He lasted.
How about this?
I'm knocking Eli Manning in 2019.
This year, if you had a team that was getting ready to play the Super Bowl, do you want Eli Manning or Dak Prescott, Anthony?
Probably in 2019, Dak.
Really? A man that has won one playoff game. You would really trust Dak Prescott in the biggest game in the world?
I don't know if I can trust Eli Manning.
Well, I know I can because he's won it twice. If you put him on a team that's a Super Bowl team, Anthony, that means they can block and play defense. And he beat Tom Brady in 2 Super Bowls. Tom Brady's still winning Super Bowls. But Tom Brady still has his coach. Tom Coughlin left New York. I'm just telling you, in the end, the only thing that matters is if you win a Super Bowl. I really like Dak Prescott. I don't think he's ever going to win a Super Bowl. And it's not because he's a Dallas Cowboy. It's because he can't throw a guy open. Year. Yeah, he might, but he's not. Because, wait a second, did I miss something? Did Belichick and them retire? Because I don't think Jason Garrett's going to outcoach Bill Belichick. And we can talk about Rob Gronkowski and the way that affects the Patriots. But as long as Bill Belichick's in New England, any fan that thinks their team is going to win the Super Bowl is nuts. I'm a Bengals fan. You could turn the Bengals into the greatest team that ever lived. If Bill Belichick is on that other sideline, I don't think my team's going to win because they're not, because Bill Belichick's over there. And you might get lucky every once in a while, like the Eagles did, but overall, they're there. And the Cowboys, to win a Super Bowl, you're going to have a big-time coach, which you don't have. And I'm not knocking it. I'm a Bengals fan. Doesn't matter how good the Bengals are. They don't have a big-time coach. Doug Peterson is a big-time coach. I mean, Doug Peterson took a team last year that was a mess the first half of the season and had them within a play or two of playing in the NFC Championship game again.
Now, listen. Now he's going to have to do it without Nick Foles.
Yeah.
So let's wait and see before we crown Doug Peterson.
I don't see why we would wait to crown Doug Peterson, because Doug Peterson has been crowned. He has a ring on his finger. He's been crowned. Now the question is, can he continue to do that? Jason Garrett has never been crowned, but yet you just tried to crown him by saying
he has a couple rings.
That Jason Garrett has no ring for being a head coach in the NFL. Marvin Lewis has a ring then.
That's a great question, Mike. Who is the longest tenured coach who does not have a Super Bowl ring? Is it Jason Garrett?
Andy Reid. Andy Reid has one as an assistant, but nobody cares. Nobody says, well, Andy Reid hadn't won a Super Bowl, but hey, he was the assistant coach on a team that did, because nobody cares.
You know what? Whoa. I mean, I get what you're saying, but when people talk about Bill Belichick, they talk about the rings he had with Parcells.
Yeah, and
the
reason they talk about the rings with Parcells would be this. In Super Bowl 25, he designed one of the greatest game plans in NFL history to beat one of the greatest offenses in NFL history. You know, Bud Carson, nobody really talks about the rings he won with the Steelers. He failed as a head coach. So with Belichick, the thing that is mind-blowing is the fact that in the mid-'80s, into the late '80s, he was designing stuff to beat defenses back then or offenses back then, and 30 years later, he's still doing it, and offenses have changed completely. You know, Jason Garrett, when did he win a Super Bowl ring? As a backup quarterback?
Yes. And I was kind of being sarcastic that.
Yeah. So this is the thing. I have respect for that. He was on that team, but come on. He had nothing to do. He's not. You guys ain't winning any of those Super Bowls with Jason Garrett being the starting quarterback, unless maybe that first one against Buffalo. Because, you know, they were giving that game away. But, yeah, so I think with Belichick, there's a direct correlation to Belichick having a huge hand in winning one of those Super Bowls. That's what I would say there. Because nobody cares that Andy Reid, I think Andy Reid was an assistant coach on the Packers team that won it all the first time in 31, wasn't he?
The Holmgren team? I think so.
Yeah, so nobody says, well, he got a Super Bowl ring there. They ignore it because, you know, Holmgren was the one calling the offense.
Okay. I've got about 200 questions here that I wrote down. I got up at 5 o'clock this morning, Los Angeles time. Andy Dalton, Mike, what's going on? They're talking about not re-signing him?
Well, I would say this. That proves the fact that I think Andy Dalton's good because the Bengals brass is stupid. The Bengals' problem has not been the quarterback. It's been the lack of putting an offensive line in front of him, the lack of having linebackers on a defense, and generally just keeping a man that should have been fired a long time ago. I would say this, as a Bengals fan, I hope Andy Dalton has the greatest year he's ever had, wins a playoff game, and then tells the Bengals to stick it up their ass and go somewhere and wins a Super Bowl.
I concur. I love Andy Dalton as quarterback.
Yeah, and he's a great guy. He does a shit ton for the community. And anybody that thinks, and I'll tell you, the Cincinnati Bengals have a history. They did it with Boomer Esiason, where they drafted David Klingler. They didn't need a freaking quarterback, and it set them back for 3 to 5 years. And then they drafted Akili Smith, and that set them back another 5 years. And that's what they're going to do here. I have every expectation that the Bengals are going to be a dumbass and draft a quarterback. They're going to get Dwayne Haskins, and all these Bengal fans that know nothing about football are getting excited because they got the big Ohio State Buckeye that threw 50 touchdown passes. And then 2 years later, they're going to be wishing they had Andy Dalton.
So what does Andy have? He's in for this year, right? He's got one more year left on his contract.
Yeah,
and they're not wanting to re-sign him for a new contract after this year.
Hopefully he has huge numbers. The team fails and he goes somewhere else and gets paid and has a chance to win a Super Bowl.
Right, and you know where I think he should go, and I'll throw it out there and see what you say about this. I think Oakland would be a great fit for Andy Dalton.
I don't.
I think him and Gruden.
No.
You don't? Okay.
No.
Explain.
I think Gruden's going to be a failure. I mean, the fact, Anthony, we got reports now that Gruden's interviewing quarterbacks. I mean, once again, I don't think we can say the quarterback is the problem in Oakland. They need a lot of help outside of quarterback. Derek Carr showed that he could play at a high level a couple years ago before he got hurt. And I just think that Gruden needs to build the rest of that team and build it around Carr. Am I wrong here?
I think people are split on Carr because we've seen him play really good, almost MVP-like before he got hurt. Then we've seen the worst of Derek Carr.
Yeah, but that was because they let that offensive line leave.
I mean, yeah, and then last year they pulled apart all the talent around him. I think you have to at least give him a shot.
Yeah, he's too good, and these other quarterbacks, there might be a couple that turn out good, the right situation, Steve, but there's a lot of questions with every one of these guys, I think.
Well, and my question is this: you got Carson Wentz, you got Derek Carr. They're injury-prone quarterbacks.
Well, this is the thing, though. Derek Carr's a guy that until he got behind, he got hurt the one year they were doing really good. Since then, when he got hurt, it's behind a bad line, so he was getting the hell beat out of him all the time. Carson Wentz is a guy that had injury problems in college even. So Carson Wentz is the bigger risk. And, yes, I think Doug Peterson's a hell of a coach, but I think letting Nick Foles go is going to be really rough on him because I don't know that Carson Wentz can make it through a season healthy, Anthony.
Yeah, that's the one knock I have on the Eagles and Wentz is his history of injuries and the fact that now you lost Nick Foles. What you have behind Carson Wentz is Nate Sudfeld. That's a big difference in player.
Easy there. That's an IU guy.
Hey,
that's an IU
guy. I think Nate Sudfeld is a solid quarterback. But Nate Sudfeld's not all of a sudden going to run you into the playoffs and win the Super Bowl.
We don't know if he can.
No, because this is the thing. Nick Foles isn't a backup quarterback. Nate Sudfeld is a backup quarterback. Nate Sudfeld may be able to come in the middle of a game and win you that game, and then you're going to go 2-6 the last 8 games of the season. Because
all right.
What the Eagles should have done is what I said a long time ago the Tennessee Titans should have done, and they did. They brought in Ryan Tannehill to stick behind an injury-prone and sometimes inefficient Mariota.
Yeah, because Ryan Tannehill...
the Eagles should have brought in a Tyrod Taylor or somebody.
I don't think Tyrod Taylor's a guy that can do what Nick Foles did either. I think it's debatable whether Ryan Tannehill would be.
A lot of people can't do what he can do.
Yeah, but I think a guy like Ryan Tannehill, you would have a chance at having a guy like that. Ryan Tannehill's never really been in a great situation. And if you look at his numbers, which don't mean a whole hell of a lot to me, but if you look at his numbers aren't bad. He was in a really bad situation with a really bad owner. And I don't think Adam Gase was a bad head coach. I just think that Adam Gase was in a situation where the ownership's so bad that it's going to be hard for anybody to win there. But Steve, any more questions?
Okay, yeah, a lot more. I got a ton more.
You got 10 minutes.
Done to this.
Let's go.
All right. Why, you got something else to do?
Hey, I'm going to Trader Joe's today.
There you go.
To get
Ryan
some
Fitzpatrick.
vegan food.
Dolphins invest $11 million into him. Mike, you've been kind of hot and cold on Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Because he's hot and cold.
Yeah, exactly. Is that a good move for the Dolphins?
I think it's a good move because
bank their QB.
I think it's a good move because they only want to win a couple games and maybe get to a Tagovailoa. What do you think, Anthony?
You broke up there for a second.
I said I think that Ryan Fitzpatrick is a good move because he'll make you competitive enough not to be an embarrassment, but he'll give you a shot to get one of the big quarterbacks coming out next year.
Yeah, I think that's the direction that the Dolphins are going to go in. But, Ryan Fitzpatrick, he can also, win some games if he catches fire. So, yeah, maybe the Dolphins are trying to tank, but I think Ryan Fitzpatrick
I don't think they're necessarily.
I
don't think they're trying to tank necessarily, but with Ryan Fitzpatrick and the talent they have around him, you're probably capping that at 5 wins.
Yeah, because they don't have the talent that he had in Tampa Bay.
No,
Tampa Bay, he had quite the wide receiver core.
Yeah, he's going to have to play out his ass to get 5 wins.
That's about it.
All right, next.
Okay, all right. Let's move on. Le'Veon Bell. What are we doing with Le'Veon Bell? Is he done? Anybody?
Le'Veon Bell's the Jets.
Yeah, he's a Jet.
Done.
He's a Jet. Oh, he signed with the Jets.
Yeah.
Okay, I did not know that. There you go.
Well, you know what though? A
I've
lot of people
I've
in the
been
past would have
focused on
said you
Final
might be.
Four basketball.
Don't give
I've been
excuses.
focused
You know
on-
I hate excuses, Risley. But I would
All
say
right.
this: a lot of people, you could have just played that off because a lot of people always assume if you go to the Jets, your career is pretty much done.
Yeah.
But I think
Okay.
the Jets,
I'm sorry.
with Sam Darnold and Le'Veon Bell, if Bell is committed to playing, I think that they are a very dangerous team because I think they've got the makings of a good defense. I think the offensive line's a little shaky, but I think that's a team that could contend for a wild card spot, Anthony.
You said the Lions?
No, the Jets.
The Jets. Yeah, I like a lot of the moves the Jets made. I like the landing spot for Le'Veon Bell. I think he is going to be their workhorse. And when you have a player who's going to be a workhorse in between the tackles, who can also run on the outside, he can catch the football, and you can line him up on the outside and in the slot. You can do so much with a player like Le'Veon Bell.
He's a safety blanket, kind of like
Right.
Jason Witten for Dak Prescott.
You know, he's a running back that can catch 80 balls. What that's going to do is help out Sam Darnold. And when Bell is running like Le'Veon Bell, like the Le'Veon Bell we're used to seeing, there's going to be a lot of big play opportunity for these receivers on the Jets. And they might not be the big household names, but Robbie Anderson can play. So can Enunwa if he
Who
stays
do they
on
have
the
at
field.
tight end?
Chris Herndon, a really talented rookie who flashed a little bit last year with Darnold.
Yeah,
they have a really good
this is the
core on
thing.
the Jets.
I mean, if you can give a quarterback like that, a running back, a young quarterback, if you can give him a running back that can catch the ball out of the backfield and a tight end that is really good, you just made Sam Darnold's completion percentage probably go up anywhere from 7 to 10%.
Yeah, and they also brought in Jamison Crowder in the slot, who's, injury issues, but when he does play, he's versatile, and he's another good check down option who can make big plays.
All right.
Out of nothing.
Next, Steve.
Okay, let's go to the draft. The draft's coming up the end of this month, isn't it? Right?
Yep.
Then we have the draft
Somewhere around there.
Yeah.
April,
okay.
May, June.
I keep hearing these words like polar vortex in the weather world. I keep hearing edge rush. Anthony, what is the biggest commodity that teams are going to be drafting for in this draft? I keep hearing this word edge rush. Everybody wants an outside defensive end that can speed through and get to a quarterback. Is that the most important spot to pick this year? Because according to Mike, there's not a lot of great quarterbacks out there.
No, it's not a good class for quarterbacks or running backs. It is a
D-line
really good class for defensive line. You also have a really good class for wide receivers and tight ends. They say this could be the best tight end class in years.
Oh, yeah. There's three guys here that could be first-round picks and be studs right away, I think. At least.
Yeah, Hawkinson, Noah Fant, and Irv Smith?
Yeah.
Who would you yeah.
I like Irv Smith. And when you look at this edge rushing-wise, you got guys like Bosa, you got Montez Sweat, who's really good, Josh Allen. That's three guys right there that I think could go into top 5. And then I've even seen mock drafts now with Quinnen Williams as low as 7 or even 10 in this draft. And Quinnen Williams, I think, may be the best player in this draft.
Yeah, and I actually saw a mock seeing that Quinnen Williams to the Jets.
Yeah,
so
I've
that would
seen
really
that too.
beef up their defense, and they brought in some good defensive players too, with C.J. Mosley being the headliner.
Well, I'll tell you this. I mean, if they could get some people to run on quarterbacks, trade up to get quarterbacks, you never know. They could end up with Josh Allen, which would be scary as hell for everybody then. I mean, weirder things have happened. And the other thing is this. You've got, I think this is a really solid offensive line draft. And you got guys like Jonah Williams, was that Jawan Taylor from Florida. You got 3 or 4 guys here where if the Jets wanted to strengthen their offensive lineup and get a tackle, they could move down even, get an extra first-round pick, and maybe pick up 2 offensive linemen.
No, yeah, I can definitely see that. I actually see a mock with the Giants going after Jawan Taylor, but that doesn't make any sense. I'm seeing that on CBS.
Well, I would say this: do they need a right tackle or a left tackle? Because I think Jawan Taylor is more of a right tackle.
No, well, then that makes a lot. Then that does
Yeah.
make sense.
Yeah, and
On the other side of Solder.
Yeah, because if you got him, Solder, you got Hernandez at guard. I mean, you've just made your offensive line really good. And the thing is this, all right, and I know I've talked about this in the past. Even if Eli Manning is shot, I think he showed he's good enough you can get by with him until next year when you can draft a quarterback. And you can take this right now and, strengthen your offensive line so that when you bring in a possible quarterback next year or even the year after, if Eli stays to 20, you've got a really good offensive line in front of the kid, and that doesn't happen for a lot of rookie quarterbacks.
No, look at last year.
Yeah.
With Rosen and Allen.
Yeah. Well, I don't think Rosen's any good anyways, but Allen I'm not completely sold on. But what the hell? All right, Steve, what else you got?
I got, I have about 20 more questions. I know we're short on time. So, Rob Gronkowski, does this begin to signal kind of the end of the Patriots era? Is this the start of the breaking down of the Patriots as we know them, being the dominant team they were? Is this the start of it, or is this just another time they lost another receiver? They've lost Wes Welker. They've lost a bunch of guys. They've come in, and as long as you have Brady and Belichick, you're okay. Or does Gronkowski start to signal maybe it's time that we're going to break down this franchise now?
We've seen them lose a ton of big-time players on offense and defense over the years, and they'll find somebody. It's just, why wouldn't they? And the other thing is this, if they need a tight end, they could get a guy like Noah Fant at the end of the first round who's not as complete a tight end as Hawkinson, but he's, I think, could be a huge threat as a target in the passing game. I think this, even if they don't have a tight end, they'll just run a different kind of offense and be fine. Plus, they're playing in the AFC East.
See, I actually think New England's going to draft two tight ends.
Hey, we've got breaking news, which I just saw on the wire, and Lucas just sent to me. This is awesome. Steve, you're going to love this. I think we predicted this the last time we talked about it, too. The AAF has just, wait for it, suspended football operations.
Play. There you go. Yeah, there you go.
Really?
Yeah. See? It's just like indoor football.
$250 million was blood money. Yeah, it was blood
money.
What
it is he decided probably to put $250 million in, and when he realized how much money he'd already lost in just a few weeks, he probably said, "The hell with this."
The hell with this, yeah. It's a tax write-off now for him. There you go.
Yeah. So, all right, go ahead, Anthony. Yeah, I'm sorry, but that was breaking news.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
I was just saying, I can see the Patriots going after two tight ends like they did in 2010 with Gronk and Aaron Hernandez.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this also. I mean, they brought it up. It wouldn't surprise me if Gronk chills and comes back and plays in the playoffs.
I mean, he's only 29.
But you know what I think Gronk's going to do? I think Gronk's going to become a superstar in the WWE.
Yep, I've been saying that for a long time.
Yeah, because he
teased it last year at WrestleMania, or 2 years ago.
He has the perfect makeup to be a WWE superstar, which means he's part dipshit, but he's a great athlete.
But I'll tell you what.
If you leave football and go, I mean, isn't that going to be even harder on your body? Because even though, because you can get banged around, and plus you're on the road 300 days a year plus.
But they're going to pay him a lot of money. And the thing is this, he's still not being hit in the head by a helmet.
No, it's steel chair and going through tables.
Yeah, but I don't think the steel chairs are really strong steel.
They're out. They're as they would say on Top Gear, they're aluminium.
Whatever that means. All right, so Steve,
one more question. One more question.
Yep.
One more, then we'll get off here. Anthony, Mike, both free agency's been kind of quiet. I mean, I'm looking at the Colts. That that's my team. They had $118 million to spend. They got Justin Howard for $24 million. They've not spent any money.
You mean Justin Houston?
What's Justin? Is it Houston? Yeah, Houston.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
But they've not spent a lot of money. There's not a lot going on in free agency right now. Is everybody being coy till the draft and then seeing what they got to do, or what's the deal with free agency?
I'm
kind of disappointed in my Colts.
Yeah,
I thought they'd be adding.
I mean, whatever's left
This is the
left.
thing.
But for, NFL free agency basically comes and goes in a week, and then you have a second wave, and now it'll be quiet until about June. And June is when you'll see the veteran free agents sign because they don't want to go to they don't want to go to OTAs and things like that. But free agency is come and gone, and the Colts kind of just they sat back and either signed their own guys and maybe brought in one or two players. Justin
I
Houston.
think what the Colts did with Justin Houston is a good.
They might
move.
sign a Jai.
Yeah, and I think in the end that a lot of times you're better off not chasing stuff, if you know what I mean. And there's still guys out there they can get. They got to draft.
Funches?
Yeah, I don't understand the Funches move that much, but I think Justin Houston was a good move. I still think going into this season, right now before the draft, I would say the Colts are the favorite to win that division.
Well, if you've got a healthy Andrew Luck,
Well, yeah.
He's the best quarterback in that division. If he's healthy, I mean, we don't know. How healthy he is.
He played all the games last year,
healthy.
so that makes him healthier
Right,
than Carson Wentz.
Right, exactly. But you
don't worry, Anthony. I don't like any of the teams in your division, so I got no problem taking a shot at any of them. Let's see.
I'm done asking questions. All
right, guys.
Making an idiot out of myself,
Anthony, we will have you back next Tuesday. Sound good?
Yes.
And we'll let Steve have some more questions, and we may even move you up to a couple days a week here as we get towards the NFL draft. I want to thank everybody for listening today. Thank Lucas Weiss from Rogers Sportsnet for giving us a little breaking news on the AAF. Tomorrow, I don't know what we're doing, but we're going to do something. It'll be entertaining. But on Friday, we will have the aforementioned Lucas Weiss on with Poncho Wright, who was a member of the 1980 national champion Louisville Cardinals, and probably also Brian Ralph from Fansided to break down the upcoming Final Four. Lucas will be with us on Monday also to break down the national championship game between Texas Tech and Virginia, just the way I predicted on this show, not between Villanova and Michigan State the way other people picked. But if you'd have picked Michigan State to win it all, we could have forgiven the Villanova pick, though. And yes, I will have that little clip for you where you picked Villanova because I know everybody else remembers it but you. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. Make sure you go to mybookie.ag, up to $1,000 cash back bonus on 50% of whatever your first deposit is. Make sure you check us out everywhere on the internet. Me and Jeremiah will be here tonight at 11 o'clock for Inside Boxing Daily to talk a little boxing news. The Sheridan Report with me and Bobby Sheridan will be on in about a half hour. It'll be a quick show because I got stuff to do today. But we're going to wrap it up. Make sure you follow Anthony Cervino at the FFaceoff. What is your Twitter handle, Anthony?
My show, the show handle is at the FFaceoff. My personal handle is at the Real NFL Guru.
All right, guys, and you can follow Twitter at Grueling Truth. Follow Steve Risley at SRisley34. You can hear all of our shows on Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, wherever you find sports podcasts, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So for Anthony Cervino, Steve Risley, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.